lives to be mediocre, but we have the opportunity to play like gods for the next half of football. But we can't be afraid to lose. There's no room for fear in this game.
This is the New Hampshire High School Football Show.
I don't want them to gain another yard.
You blitz all night! If they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm going to take every last one of you out.
The New Hampshire High School Football Show is brought to you by the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement.
You got heart, charisma, and a lot of skill.
And now, here are your hosts, Pete Terrier and Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com.
Clear eyes, full hearts.
Can't lose.
Let's go play some football. Let's go.
Good morning and welcome to the semifinal Saturday edition of the New Hampshire High School Football Show. We give it to you each and every Saturday during the football season on two fine stations here in southern New Hampshire. The legendary News Radio 610 WGIR out of the Manchester area and also on the Seacoast 96.7 FM. My name is Pete Terrier, along with my normal co-host Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com. David, good morning.
Good morning.
And you're excited about some football.
I'm ready right now.
Special reason is Guilford Golden Eagles are playing for a spot in the D3 championship.
I was doing some wind sprints out front. I felt like the hammy pull a little bit, but I'm a game time. I'm gonna go. We're gonna shoot it up today and go. I'm ready to roll today. I'm ready to go. If they need me in that game, I'll go in.
Another guy who is certainly ready to roll, although his team is not in the playoffs, but we're actually kind of happy about it because he's in studio with us. John Lupa, the head coach of the Keene Blackbirds. Coach Lupa, good morning, and thank you so much for coming out here and joining the program today.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
What a difference a year makes for your team. Last year, you're playing today against Pinkerton at home. This year, an 0-8 start. You finish at 1-8. At least you won going away. You ended up winning that last game in dramatic fashion, so that has to leave a much better taste in your mouth going into the offseason.
Yeah, it definitely does. If you're going to win one game, it's got to be the last one. But thanks for bringing that up.
How tough was that for you, knowing that you really had probably one of the best Keene teams ever last year, especially when you've been coaching Keene? And then going into this year, and really the cupboard was kind of bare for you guys.
Yeah, and we kind of expected it. We only had two starters back from last year's squad, and one on offense, one on defense. So we knew we were going to be young and inexperienced. And we were, it really wasn't a bad year. There have been years where you finish 6-3 or 7-2, and you can't wait for the season to be over. But we had a great group of kids. They worked hard, evident by winning that last game the way we did. So, I was sad to see the season end, but we've been in the weight room, 45 guys in the weight room every day since the season's been over, so we got a jump start on everyone else.
You played BG, and that was a pretty competitive game for a while there. Are you surprised to see that they've been able to turn around, that they're playing today?
Not really, and the reason I'm not surprised is because they had a lot of guys injured throughout the year. The Hausman kid, real good football player. I don't know the kid's name, but number 6 for BG.
Is it I don't know, Kelvin. I don't know numbers very well, but
yeah,
running back?
He was an outside linebacker. That kid was a stud.
Yeah.
And defensively, he was just all over the football field. And I knew once they got some of their other pieces back, the West Division was a little weak this year. Yeah. And I knew they'd have a shot at winning the.
Yeah.
You talking about Michael Landman, who was a junior linebacker for them, for Bishop Gurdon. I think another kid that stands out, and you can, excuse me, I'm looking at the Bedford roster, so that's my bad right there. No, but I think another kid
I almost
that
made a
stands
recruiting
out,
joke about BG, but
Kyle Cushion. He's another good one, and Chase Hughes is the kid that he's talking about.
Oh, Chase Hughes, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
He's excellent, yeah.
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 Look, I'm a little bit surprised that BG is in this game.
Do they have a chance today, Pete?
I do not think they have a chance against Pinkerton.
I'm looking at the staff picks, and I see Pinkerton.
I mean, Coach, there's no surprise that everybody's going with Pinkerton. I mean, you played them too.
Yeah, we did play Pinkerton, and both games, first half of both games was really competitive. I mean, it was 20. I think it was 27-9 at halftime with Pinkerton. Pinkerton just has so much depth. Their tight end got hurt in our game. They brought in the next tight end, and everybody, thought he was the best tight end they had on their roster. So their depth is going to play a big factor today.
And we'll get into this more later, but do special teams really, when you get down, the difference between these teams when you get to this level is usually finite. It is, one or two turnovers here or there, one possession there. Do special teams make a huge difference? I ask that because Pinkerton, I know they love, I talked to Coach O'Reilly, they have a great kicker over there. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name.
Kyle Cantalupo.
Yeah, he's terrific. One game I look at today is I think the game of the day is Kennett St. Thomas, where with John Kesty and Peter going to. Kennett doesn't have a kicker, like they don't have a kicker, and St. Thomas does. And do you see that happen? You've been in these games.
Yeah, I can remember games that kicking is really a huge factor. Your kick coverage teams are the two that really come into play. Your kickoff team and your punt team. Because you don't want to give up a special teams touchdown. You mentioned the Pinkerton game with us. The game got broken open to start the second half. They ran a kickoff back, I think down to like the 5-yard line, scored 2 plays later, forced a 3-and-out. The punt return was a touchdown. So and then game over. So special teams are huge, especially when the teams are even. And kicking, if you get inside close to the red zone and you have a kicker that can put the 3 points on in a playoff game, it's huge.
Coach, we love stirring up controversy and talking about controversy and things like that, and I know that you're one that's going to play along with us here. Talk about the situation that took place this past weekend. The playoff games were on Saturday. Those conference championship games were on Saturday. The results were there. They were in. The NHIAA had all kinds of time before those games even played to look at what the rating situation and what the potential seedings were going to be depending on what happened in those games on Saturday. Yet Monday afternoon and like 3:15, I think they put up on the website what the actual pairings were going to be. Meanwhile, there were coaching staffs all over in Division I, I'm talking about, not knowing who they were going to play, preparing for. I know Exeter was preparing for Pinkerton. Coach O'Reilly, after the game, I was at the Pinkerton-Londonderry game, was telling me, we are the number 2 seed. Bedford's the number 1 because of this tiebreaker. He thought they were playing Exeter. I'm sure they were starting to prepare for Exeter. And then after your practice is already underway on Monday afternoon and your preparation is beginning for that opponent, you find out, oh, we're not playing them. We're playing these guys. I mean, how crazy is that? And why can't they figure it out ahead of time?
Yeah, that's actually nuts. Last year after we beat South in Nashua, by the time we got back to Keene, we had already had 4 films on Pinkerton knowing we were going to play Pinkerton. So the preparation isn't just like starting Monday. For coaches, it starts as soon as that game is over. So I'm sure there were coaches all day, all night Saturday night, all day Sunday, were preparing, like, what is our game plan going to be? And then to see it change and you see the little 72.7 rule that says if someone's tied for a playoff spot, it's going to come into the rating points. That was crazy. I can't believe that actually happened.
And with the way technology has evolved, and, the NHIAA has a new head, Jeff Collins, who I've met and personally like a lot, and, I'm really excited about kind of a new regime. There's ways to just have a video, you know what I mean, where you explain the tiebreaker process, and you could come on and just do a quick YouTube video that gets sent out to all the teams. Say, here are the matchups. You could have, digital. I mean, we have the ability to do that at nhsportspage.com. Why the NHIAA should be able to come on and explain, sort of like the NHL does with their suspensions and their penalties. And now you see in the NBA, they've got a place in Secaucus, New Jersey, where they have all the replays and so forth. But they should be able to come on and explain it and do that simultaneously. I mean, that should be done on Sunday morning. I've talked about for years. My friend Trevor Howard from Littleton prepared to play Sunapee in the playoffs one year all weekend long, and then Monday afternoon there was someone different. He's playing Wilton or something. So he had 3 days where his kids were preparing for one team, and the game was on a Tuesday. So it's happened so many times that it never gets fixed, and it's very easily correctable.
All right, we'll get into a timeout now. We got Coach John Lupa from Keene. He is our special guest analyst for the day. We're going up till 9 o'clock. It is the semifinal Saturday edition of the New Hampshire High School Football Show. We will get into each and every one of these games today. There's 6 games going off. 5 of them start at 1 o'clock. The Division II game between Wyndham and Hollis Brookline kicks off at 1:30. I'm shooting up to Conway after this for a game which I think is going to be a tremendous game, that St. Thomas game against Kennett. Dave, you're headed out to see the alma mater take on Newport in a Division III conference championship game. That's the North Conference championship game. We'll get to all the matchups. We'll break them down. We got Coach Lupa going to tell us his inside knowledge on these teams, especially the D1 teams, as the New Hampshire High School Football Show continues. And oh, by the way, Bill Ball from Exeter is expected to join us on the phone in about 15 minutes or so to talk about what I think is also a very tasty matchup in D1. Exeter against Bedford, but no Mike Bayless. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7.
These guys know their high school football. It's the New Hampshire High School Football Show with Pete Terrier and Dave Haley.
Special guest this morning on semifinal Saturday, Keene head coach John Lupa in studio. Made the trek out here from Keene this morning. Coach, it's a cold day. It's going to be around 30-something, 40 degrees at a lot of these games. Sunny, hopefully not much wind. How much of a factor does the weather play in to these type of games?
It will play a little bit of factor in, except most of the teams in Division I are running football teams, so it's not going to be as bad. Once the guys on the field start running around and working up a sweat in pregame, they won't even notice that it's in the 30s. You know, you guys might up in a booth, but they won't notice.
Up on top of the booth, we'll be noticing that. But you know, these coaches, there'll be coaches wearing shorts. What is it with football coaches and wearing shorts, no matter what the temperature is?
I think some of them have that a mentality of nothing's going to, affect us. I watched a game a couple of years ago, an NFL game, Green Bay Packers. Tom Coughlin's got lip stuff all over so he wouldn't get, frozen. And there are guys out there in no sleeves. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, what are you thinking, guys? But it's one of those mentality things, and coaches, some of them think that, they can portray it and send a message to their own team. So it's okay. I have a couple guys on my staff that wear shorts, 365 days a year. Well,
that's, I guess, the what you can do when you're a football coach. Some of the conversations we have during the commercial breaks are great, and we were talking with Coach Lupa about, how we like interacting with the coaches, and they're quick to point out when we make a mistake or we say something that isn't quite right. I think the funniest interaction I've ever had with you, Coach, and I don't know if you remember this, but it was in the playoff game against Bedford a couple years ago when you guys went for two and took the lead and seemingly won that football game, and then James Caparell leads them down, and they end up scoring on the last play of the game basically to beat you. And I approached you after the game to shoot a video interview with you, and your words to me were, I just said sheepishly, I'm like, Coach, can we get you just for a couple of brief comments on video here? And what he said to me was, just don't ask me anything stupid.
Football's an emotional game. It takes a while to get over certain things, and I've always said it. In games like that, I really do think there should be a 15-minute cool-down period.
I told Pete, and I love Pete to death. I had this conversation with him last year. I said, stop interviewing coaches after they lose their final game. They just talked to 20 seniors they're never going to see again. Do not put the poor Jay McKenna, my buddy at Winnicott, he's got him on camera. You can tell Jay's like puffy-eyed because he just said goodbye. I'm like, please stop interviewing these guys. Talk to them after they win. They'll talk to you all day long. They'll buy you a drink. They don't care. I was like, stop interviewing coaches after they lose. I am not going up to coaches after they lose at UNH next weekend. It's not happening.
Are you required to address the media? I mean, they don't have press conferences per se, but do they encourage that? Is that an athletic director thing? Is it an NCAA thing?
Don't ask me anything stupid. I love that.
I don't think it's a requirement. I just think it's something that's done.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the toughest things I've ever had to do. We had to drag kids off the field that day.
Yeah, I remember your
was
son.
A classic.
Your son Lucas. I mean, I remember he was crumpled to the turf, and that was a killer. Did you see the ending of that Salem Londonderry game? Did you see that video?
I did.
All right, what happened there? Did the ref screw it up?
All right, I got to be politically correct.
I know.
Because I'm going to get those officials at some point. So we had a similar situation, I think it was probably back in 2008 when
Bishop
Girton. If the field goal is blocked and it stays behind the line, it's blocked behind the line of scrimmage, it's a live ball still. And because they were on third down, they still maintained possession of the ball. The officials claim that they stopped the clock because they didn't know who had the football, and they wanted to spot it, and that was that scenario. So it's one of those things. It was third down. The clock probably never should have stopped. I would have had a hard time swallowing that pill.
And especially when it ends your season, you're out of the playoffs. I mean, if this happens in week 3 and you still got season to go to do whatever you need, I mean, I can see it. I'm not happy about it if I'm Salem. But, I mean, you're out of the playoffs. And now you got 4 and 5 BG and 4 and 5 Alvern battling it out for a spot in the Final Four, and you kick the crap out of both of those teams. So it wouldn't sit well with me either. I wouldn't have gone up to Coach Pike after that game.
No.
No.
You could have gotten him in trouble, too. That's the thing, too. Like, you don't want to get these guys in trouble by saying, when it was print and we were just writing stuff, I've definitely had coaches say things and then look at me and go, that's off the record. I'm like, yeah, don't worry, man. Don't worry about it. But when it's on camera, you know what I mean? Well, I guess we can edit things. But
I mean, look, I'm not trying to keep this thing alive, but just being there that night, and it was an incredible finish, and it was... You remember the ABC Wide World of Sports intro with the thrill of victory and then the agony of defeat as the skier is like tumbling down the mountain? That's what it was for Salem that night.
Yeah, and we've been in that situation before, and it's a tough pill to swallow when you think you might have been wronged and you're not sure. And I was under the assumption in talking to a couple of guys on the Salem staff that they really didn't know what the explanation was, and they finally got it a couple of days later.
Yeah, there was no explanation. I mean, in my opinion, the refs blew it. Whatever. I mean, I think Pinkerton probably would have beat Salem anyways if Salem moved on, but at least Salem
you
would
can't
have
say
had a
that.
chance.
Yeah.
No, I said I think.
No, you're right.
It would have been nice for them to have a chance, but credit to Londonderry for executing when they got the opportunity. I mean, they took advantage of the situation. Londonderry did nothing wrong. They took advantage of it, and they executed it, and credit to them, but it's a shame that it had to work out that way. All right, let's talk about the games that are going to happen today in Division I. You, as we said, saw both BG and Pinkerton. Is there any chance for the Cardinals today against the Astros?
Of course, there's a chance. I think they have some really good athletes. They're back healthy, and it's going to come down to field position is going to play a key for BG because I don't think they're going to be able to sustain a lot of long drives, but I do think they can have a couple of explosive plays, and Pinkerton can pretty much do what they want, I think. So turnovers might be a factor. If BG can force a few turnovers and, things go their way, I think that can be a football game.
And Dave, you got to agree that Pinkerton, when the tiebreak situation did come out, boy, what a easier road to the championship game than having to play a 500 BG team than going against Exeter.
Yeah, well, the eyeball test tells you Pinkerton's the best team. We've seen them all, and look, they're not a lot. They're not a notch. They're a notch better than Bedford and Exeter from what you see. But yeah, it felt right. You know what I mean? Like it felt like it should have been Pinkerton and BG, and I think a lot of people are excited to see Exeter, Bedford, and so forth. But yeah, a much easier road, obviously. Coach O'Reilly doesn't want to hear that. But I mean, that's, they got a home game. They deserve that against BG, the fourth best team out of the four, and I think they deserve it. Do we agree? We were saying off the air, I mean, that, and I wrote it this week in my preview, but that Bedford-Exeter game has that 14-10 feel to it, doesn't it? I mean, this is just going to be a
it's going to be
defense. Two great defenses.
Watching Bedford on film, they just get after it defensively, and Exeter's not going to change their game plan. They're going to come at you and play smash mouth football and try and control the clock.
And I was just going to say real quick, Pete and I talked after the game because I went to the Exeter Portsmouth game last week, and he said, how'd it go? And I said, Exeter got the ball 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, 3 yards, 9 yards. It was just boom, 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 right down the field. And Portsmouth could not get them off the field. And it was just methodical, 4 or 5 yards at a time, boom. And, that's, what they're going to try to do today. But Bedford's got a much better defense than Portsmouth. Bedford's going to be, it's going to be really good today.
But unfortunately for them, Mike Valus, their quarterback, is injured.
They can throw a little bit more today, though.
Well, I think Tyler Sabati is a little bit better throwing quarterback, but he doesn't have that running element that Mike Valus brings to the table.
And experience.
Yeah, the experience. And, I can see Bedford trying to rally around this and win one for Mike, so to speak.
They lost Michael Collins, too, at the beginning of the year.
Right. but this is, your guy, and he's not only an important piece on offense, but he's a defensive, big part. He's the back end of that defense at the safety position. I mean, how tough is that going into a Final Four game when you got to replace your quarterback?
I don't ever want to be in that situation, but I know Coach Hines is going to get those troops ready to go. And again, I think he's going to rely on defense in his running game. He's got a lot of kids. Those two programs, I think, are two of the best programs, public schools in the state of New Hampshire, as far as how many kids they have in the program. They lose somebody, they just fill in, then it's the next guy up theory. And I think it's going to be a great football game. The one thing that I will say about Exeter's defense is they always bend, but they don't break. And you might be able to throw the football a little bit on them here and there and get it down inside the red zone. But once you're in the red zone, they just clamp down.
Portsmouth had 2 balls picked off in the end zone, last week early. I mean, Connor DeCesare got him down the field. They couldn't punch it in. And then the big play of the game was Portsmouth got the ball, I think, at the 3-yard line. Johnny Iafola, the offense coordinator for Portsmouth, called the run. Connor DeCesare audibled out of it through a quick pass that Exeter picked off. I believe it was as Kelly. I think it was Chris Kelly who picked it off. And, that turned the whole game around because I think it was 14-7 at that point. So, yeah, that defense, you're absolutely right. Like, they don't let you in when you get down there.
All right, we got to put you on the spot here. I mean, who do you like in those 2 football games?
You're going to ask him before Bill Ball comes on?
That's right.
That's pressure.
Yeah.
I think the Bedford Exeter game is going to be the first tie in football history in a playoff game. That one's too close.
Yeah.
And I respect both of those programs and what they've done, and I wouldn't want to lean one way or the other because I'm going to have to see one of them next year probably.
Hey, you're on Twitter too. I don't see you tweeting all that often, but Coach Kurt Hines he's just a serial tweeter. I mean, he'll tweet about anything. And I remember his son, who plays for Goffstown, and Kurt Hines goes out and makes a prediction Goffstown's going to beat whoever. I think it was Exeter that day. And I'm like, you never see a coach tweeting about another game and who he thinks is going to win. Now, this is a circumstance where his kid actually plays for another team, not his own. But, I mean, I like that. I think it takes a little guts and you don't really care what people say about you.
I'm willing to bet Coach Ball like that as well because I'm sure he's using that this week.
Yeah, that's true. That is true because I'm pretty sure it was Goffstown's going to beat Exeter today, and Goffstown ended up beating them. And now Kurt Hines, I don't know if Coach Ball is going to roll it up on his smartphone and say, look at this tweet from September whatever.
There's not a chance in this world that Bill Ball is on Twitter. There's not a chance on this earth that is the case.
We'll find out in just a couple of minutes because we'll have him on the line as his team gets ready to come to Bedford for a Division I semifinal matchup. That one's a very, very interesting game. Exeter and Bedford. The other D1 semi, Pinkerton at Bishop Girton. We'll talk to Coach Ball next. After the interview with him, we'll get into the D2 and D3 games. We'll have both of those games covered. Well, the Kennett St. Thomas game and the Newport Guilford game, the D3 North Conference Championship game. We'll have video coverage of both of those games coming up on NHSportsPage.com. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7.
It's the best local coverage of New Hampshire high school football. The New Hampshire High School Football Show on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Well, all the beautiful people will certainly be in Bedford this afternoon for a D1 semifinal matchup, and it is a good one. It's Exeter against Bedford. Bedford undefeated, but without their starting quarterback, Mike Bayless, who suffered a broken leg in the game last week, the victory over Concord. Exeter, meanwhile, they got past Portsmouth in the East Conference Championship game, 35-9. Was that the final score?
Yeah,
that
it was
one?
pretty lopsided, yeah.
And joining us on the phone right now is the head coach of the Exeter Blue Hawks, the veteran coach, Bill Ball. Coach Ball, good morning and happy semifinal Saturday.
Morning, guys. How you doing?
We're doing okay. We got Coach John Luper from Keene in studio with us, so he's going to take part in this interview as well. So why don't you say hi to the coach, Coach?
Yeah, that's it, John. How you doing, pal?
Good. Good luck today, Coach.
Thanks, buddy.
So take us through your Saturday morning when you got a game kicking off at 1 o'clock on the road. What's the itinerary for the Blue Hawks?
Yeah, well, we'll start at 9:35 with special teams meetings and go right through to about 5 minutes to 10 with offense and defense, and we'll be on the bus around 10:20 heading over to Bedford. So for our pregame, so it happens pretty quickly when you're on the bus on a Saturday at 1. So things are condensed.
Coach, most of us kind of look at the change or the permanent change to call ball at quarterback as when this offense kind of kicked it into a different gear. But what have you seen with your team, day to day, and the improvements that you guys have made that over the second half of the season?
Yeah, there's no question that Kyle's a gifted athlete. He's got real good leadership skills, good poise for a sophomore in particular. But I think also the works in concert with that is the development of our offensive line. In the last 5 weeks, we've seen the gel. We get our calls down better. We're just picking things up better than we have in the past. And when you have that, then you have a four-back threat. So it's a four-back threat with a threat of pass. It helps you on the edge in critical third down situations.
Coach, I know you guys played Bedford earlier in the season, and it was a close football game. I think it was a special teams mistake. But what is the game plan today, and how does it change with the fact that Valus is out, and now you're facing a new quarterback who you might not know as much about? Does it change your defensive game plan at all?
They're going to run their offense. The Sabati kid's good. He played wide out. They threw a lot of jailbreak stuff to him that we saw on tape, and so he's a real good athlete. He went in against Concord, played about 2.5 quarters, 8 for 11 throwing the ball. So we have to be really cognizant of the pass. That's not to negate Mike Valus. He's probably one of the top athletes and 3-sport kid in the state, but. They're going to run their spread offense. They're going to run their read option. They may throw the ball a little bit more. This kid seems to be more of a thrower, but they're going to run their stuff. You go through 10 weeks and you're undefeated. It's hard to change, and they've had great success with what they're doing. And the depth at the quarterback position speaks well. I mean, the number 5 is the backup to him, and then I saw that he ran a kickoff back for a touchdown against Concord, which is a key play in that game. So they're plenty athletic at that position.
Coach, let's talk about your running game. You mentioned the offensive line and how well they've kind of gelled together, and you've had a real solid group carrying the football for you. Talking about, obviously, guys like Nick Floodstrom and Chris Kelly and Mark Cicchini and Shane Quimby. It's kind of a luxury having so many different options, and it makes it real tough for the defenses. I know when I'm trying to call a game and I see that Exeter tight T formation bunched up, it's really hard to tell who has the football. I mean, that kind of plays right into what you're trying to do, having that many options.
Yeah, it does. We've developed some really good depth. Now, Nicky Floodstrom's had an incredible senior year for us. Broke out against Winnacunnet and hasn't stopped since. He's just matured as a football player, and he's been a real pleasant addition. And as is Cam Flanagan, who plays fullback with him. And so we do it by committee back there, and that's when we seem to be at our best, when it's by committee. And like I said, Kyle adds that fourth dimension to the attack that you need, so they don't gang up on the off-tackle hole.
Coach, were you affected at all by the delay in finding out who exactly you were going to be playing today? For a long time.
It really wasn't. It got posted, and then all of a sudden you started to think, well, wait a sec here. And but we did work on Sunday, but we found out soon enough. And the thing I looked at, it was the same for everybody. So I didn't think it was an advantage, disadvantage. I had no problem with it. Once we found out, we turned our attention to Bedford, and we were fortunate to have Veterans Day off. So, some of those things worked out, and like I said, it was the same for Girton, Pinkerton, and Bedford. So there was no advantage or disadvantage.
Coach, with this game with Bedford, do you find that it's going to be a tougher matchup because they know your strengths from playing earlier in the year, or did you put in any wrinkles? Like I remember a few years back you were playing BG and you put in a couple of big wrinkles for them. I just wondering if we can expect any wrinkles out of your offense today.
Yeah, I mean, you always tend to look at the tape when you lose with a more critical eye, and we saw some things, and I'll be honest with you, there were some things that we did fundamentally on the offensive side that very uncharacteristic of us that we've tried to clean up. We've tried to clean up the base and pretty much, we're a fundamental football team, and we got to block and tackle to be good at it. And the first time on the offensive side, we had some communication miscues that hopefully we've cleaned up in the last month.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate the time on a game day Saturday. We know what the real plan is. Blue Hawks coming out 5 wide, empty backfield. We're going to, like the game against Portsmouth when DeCesare threw it 54 times. I see Kyle Ball putting it up at least 30 times today.
Yeah, if you do, it might not be good news.
All right, Coach. Well, best of luck today. It should be a great game. I'll be up in Conway, so I'll be following the game on Twitter. So chances are we'll see you next week no matter what happens out at UNH. How cool is that all three games are there on Saturday?
I think it's great for New Hampshire football. It's great for UNH, and people that really love football get to go up there and spend the day and watch a lot of football, so that'll be awesome.
All right, Coach. Good luck, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
All right,
John.
Bill
Bye-bye.
Ball from Exeter. He's jumping on a bus in about an hour, heading towards Bedford. Not a bad trip on 101 east to west over into Bedford. We'll take a timeout. You got something?
No, I want to mention really quick. Jen Chick next week is going to be out at the 2 winning teams today and do one of her previews like she did last week. She's going to go to practice. So
cool. Whether
it be Bedford or Exeter or Pinkerton or BG, she's going to be out of practice. And then we put that on the site. I think we had well over 1,000 views of that video last year. So anyway, that's something to look forward to next week too.
All right, we'll come back. It'll be our final segment. Coach Luke was probably going, man, this show is going so fast. It took me less time on this radio show than it did to drive here from Keene, but we really appreciate having him in. We'll get into the Division II and the Division III games as we continue on the New Hampshire High School Football Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Welcome back to the best local coverage of New Hampshire high school football on the New Hampshire High School Football Show. Saturday mornings from 8 to 9 on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Final segment of the program on semifinal Saturday here in the state of New Hampshire. Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley, nhsportspage.com. Both of us headed out to a game today. Dave's going to Newport for Guilford Newport D3 North Conference Championship game. The South Conference Championship game could be a decent game. Can anybody give Bo a game? If anybody can, maybe your Guilford Golden Eagles if they get there. But the Campbell Cougars have a chance to do it too.
Campbell beat Newport during the season. Campbell has played really, really well. Their defense has really picked up a lot. Look, Bo right now looks like the 1985 Chicago Bears. I mean, they do. But, I think Campbell today could, they played in the season opener. Bo beat them easily. But Campbell has seen them before. They haven't lost since. They played really, really well. And I think this could be a terrific game today.
Coach, you started your high school coaching career in a small school, Fall Mountain High School, regional high school out of Langdon, New Hampshire. So you must have an affinity. And Keene, although you're a D1 school, one of the smaller D1 schools, so you probably kind of enjoy the small-town football, don't you?
Yeah, the small-town football is great. It can be the difference of one kid playing and one kid not playing in those divisions. And if you get a couple of kids that can make plays and you get a couple of turnovers, anything can happen in those games. My first year, we played Summersworth regular season. I think they beat us 48-0. We turned around and we ended up playing them in the semifinals, and it was one of the craziest games I've ever coached. I think the final score was 62-38. Neither team, I don't think there was a punt in the whole game. But it was one of those things where it's almost like 2 seasons. You have the beginning of the year, which it sounds like they played in the beginning of the year, and then as the year goes on, coaches find out certain things about certain players develop quicker, and you really are a different team at the end of the year than you are at the beginning of the year.
Now, what do you know about any of these teams? I mean, you got your own team to worry about, and you got to be scouting teams like Pinkerton and Nashua South and Bishop Garden, your conference teams. But do you follow, what these other teams are doing? I mean, you must be aware of what Bo is doing.
I am aware of what Bo's doing. I'll throw a plug in. Every week I go on to New Hampshire Sports Page and look at the videos and the interviews with the kids, and you like to see what everybody else in the state is doing. And Bo's doing a tremendous job this year. I was impressed with Kennett as well in the other division.
Yeah.
But there's it's good football, and as a football guy, you want to be there watching football and seeing what's going on.
So I got Bo ranked number 10 in my power poll ballot. And I do that not because I think that Bo could beat a team like Bishop Girton, Goffstown, Manchester Memorial, a 500 or so team in D1, even Keene maybe. And then the other voters in the power poll apparently don't think that much of Bo or don't really care about giving the small guy a chance every now and then because they got BG number 10 in the poll at 5-5. I mean, Portsmouth is receiving votes. I didn't vote for Portsmouth anymore this past week. But do you like the fact that I'm giving the small guy a chance, or do you think that it should just be the cream of the crop, the true top 10 best teams in New Hampshire?
Okay, what hat do I have on right now? Am I the coach or am I the radio guy?
You're the radio guy.
Oh, the radio guy. I love it. It's great to let those teams. That was, I guarantee you, the talk in Bow High School this week. We're in the power poll.
They were not in the power poll. They
were in yours,
right?
And that was the talk, that we were in your votes and on your site, and that's all they. That's one of the issues that I have as a coach is too many people get wrapped up. I don't know who voted for Keene this year in the first power poll of the year, but
it wasn't him. I don't think.
But
it wasn't.
I don't have a vote.
If you were to look at what we had returning, when I saw that, I was like, oh boy, I hope our kids don't see this.
Yeah. They had Plymouth. They had Plymouth in the top 10 too. Listen. Don't get me started on the power polls. Bo has outscored their opponents during the regular season 336 to 25. 311 more points than they've given up. So, I mean, Bo is absolutely one of the top 10 teams of the state. They are. It's as simple as that. So, can they be beaten today by Campbell? I think Campbell can give them a game, absolutely, but I think Bo's going to win. I think if there's one team that matches up with Bo that can give them trouble, it's a team that's getting on the bus and going to Newport this afternoon, the Guilford Golden Eagles, because we can score throwing the ball with Carter Mercer. We got Max Triano returning punts, and we got Kyle Gaudet catching it, and Max Triano and David McDonald running it. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Let's kick it off.
All right, that's the other game.
Someone bring me some hot chocolate up there, too.
He is ready to go. It is Bo playing host to Campbell. That game's at 1 o'clock, as is the Newport Guilford game at 1 o'clock. In D2, Coach, you mentioned Kennett. Kennett taking on St. Thomas. Kennett unbeaten. St. Thomas, a once-beaten team. And we were actually there the night that they lost to Laconia. We had that game on film, which to me, Laconia played perfect that night. And you kind of had to beat that St. Thomas team. They can score points like crazy. I know the quarterback, Steven Hedberg, he's a lefty quarterback. He's a junior. He's got 28 touchdowns on the year. So if he throws 3 touchdowns, he ties the record that Brendan Johnson just set last week.
That record's going to keep getting broken every 3 years. Don't you agree? With the passing. I'm not taking anything away from Steven Hedberg, who's terrific, but don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Just because of the way the offense is going these days, it's inevitable.
It's like Peyton Manning's passing record's going to get. They're like, oh, Andrew Luck could break it. It's going to get broken 2 years from now if Andrew Luck breaks it this year. He may break it again. But
what impressed you so much about Kennett when you saw him on film?
Their athleticism and their size. I don't know if a lot of those D2 or D3 schools week in and week out can play in a Division I schedule, because you're going to Nashua South, you're going to Alvern, you're going to BG, Pinkerton, Londonderry, Salem, week in and week out, and there's no rest. But on any given day, they look like they could play with anyone.
And remember how Keene was last year? Now, they played a great Pinkerton team, so they didn't end up winning. But you remember how the entire town and coach had, guys like Troy Wilkes and guys who had played for Keene 20 years ago 30 years ago, come talk to the team. that's the way North Conway is going to be today. Like, that whole town is going to be at that game today because Kennett hasn't had a game like this at home in a long time. And, this is a class they've been waiting for with, Will Pollard's only a junior, but they've got, Nick Graziano and Nate Emerson and so forth and Jacob Cameron. St. Thomas is going into a tough environment today, and certainly St. Thomas is going to be as well prepared as any team. It's going to be and you guys are going to have a fun time up there.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the atmosphere. And, I watched the video that Tom Pollard did for us, and he put it on of the Kennett Kearsarge game, and he started the video with just a shot of, I think that's Mount Washington. It was snow-covered, and just the background up there. I love going to games at Plymouth because of the backdrop, the way the field is set, and you can kind of see the mountains. I'm really looking forward to getting up there. So that's going to be a great game. The other game in D2, a team that I have ranked 4th in my Power Poll ballot, Wyndham. I got Kennett 7th and St. Thomas 9th. I got Wyndham 4th, and I've had them 4th all year. Now, I think really from 2 through 6 is pretty much toss them up in the air, and wherever they fall, I'm okay with that. But I got Wyndham in there with Salem and Londonderry and Exeter. I think that is a wagon of a football team, and I would be shocked if Hollis Brookline beats them today because Hollis Brookline's been a roller coaster of a team all year long. Just when you think you got them figured out, they go out and do something else. I don't know. I like Wyndham a lot.
Wyndham beat him 56-0 in the opener, so that's a little emphatic.
Week 1. I mean, you mentioned how you guys got crushed by Somersworth, and then you went back out there, and it was a totally different ball game. I don't see that happening today with Hollis Brookline Wyndham. I don't know. They're a good football team. That game kicks off at 1:30, by the way. So, Dave, your thoughts on going to cover your team play? I mean, it's got to be exciting for you, too, as an alumni.
You know what I think is great about today, we talked about at the end with Coach Ball, is these kids today, whoever I interview after the game, you know who I hope it's going to be, you're going to say, where are you going next weekend? Those kids are like, we're going to UNH. I mean, that's a cool thing, right? You know what I mean? I love that these kids are playing for that stage.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's one of those things where
we're going to Bow. It's not quite the same.
They might just say, we're going to the ship. It's nice to see that all the divisions are going to one site. Massachusetts has been doing it for a long time. It draws a lot of interest, and it's nice to see that. I wish it was like in Keene, instead of at UNH. We've got the toughest drive, but it also. I know Coach Ball mentioned how great it is, and it is for football fans in the state of New Hampshire. It's awesome that UNH is holding this. But if you're Exeter and you're St. Thomas, and you get to sleep in your own bed and wake up a lot later than a Kennett or a Plymouth or anybody coming from the other side of the state or up north, that's a tough haul. St. Thomas has a tough haul going up to Kennett today. There's no easy way to get to Kennett.
Guilford going to Newport. I got to ask you this. I'd be mad. I know we
got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Everybody complains about going out to Keene. I remember Berlin people emailing me, go, hey, about the drive to Berlin. They're like, we have to drive everywhere else. Well, how do you feel? You're the one you got to drive all over the state.
And answer it in 10 seconds.
It's easy. We do it our whole lives.
There you go.
All right, Coach Lupa from Keene, thanks so much for coming in. I hope you had fun. It's been great. We'll have the video of this up on the website, nhsportspage.com tomorrow. Also coverage of the Newport-Guilford game and that Kennett-St. Thomas game. Enjoy the football, everybody. For John Kesty, our videographer, for Coach Lupa and Dave Haley and our producer, Jeremy Mahaney, I'm Pete Terrier. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.